I was going to bring a very large Welsh flag. I have a very tiny Welsh flag. I hope you all know the Red Dragon. We're going to be doing some work promoting Wales over the next month. So if anybody wants a tiny Welsh dragon as a reminder of Wales, come and see me later. So the concept of collective defence and collective deterrence is the core of NATO and has been since 1949, when Ernest Bevin, our Foreign Secretary, helped to deliver the first North Atlantic Treaty. We need to have the political resolve, the bureaucratic mechanisms, and believe me, NATO has those bureaucratic mechanisms, as well as the military capabilities to defend every member of the alliance from external threats. And the security and reassurance which this has given to countries in Europe, starting with Germany and Italy after World War II, moving on to Greece and Turkey, Spain and Portugal, and then the countries of Eastern Europe. This has helped these countries to focus on building their state, their democratic institutions, and their economies. And the peace and economic transformation which we've seen in Western Europe, and the spread of peace, democracy and prosperity across Eastern Europe since 1991 speaks for itself, I think. So if a hard security guarantee is the head of the alliance, for the UK, this wider concept of partnership, seeing NATO not just as a defence insurance policy, but as a living alliance, living relationships to build trust, confidence between countries through constant political dialogue and joint cooperative action. This partnership is the heart of the alliance. The historic opportunity in the 1990s to orient NATO away from defence against a possible Soviet invasion and instead towards partnership was very strongly welcomed and has been promoted very strongly indeed over the last 20 years by the UK. Now, Armenia really exemplifies for me what NATO partnership has been about in the last 20 years. As has been mentioned, Armenia joined the Partnership for Peace at the very beginning in 1994, 2 years after it had signed the CIS Collective Security Treaty, which then became the CSTO. So from the earliest days of independence, Armenia has sought to demonstrate its intention to build constructive relationships with NATO, despite its collective security responsibilities and guarantees as a CSTO member. It is, I think, unique in the way that it has successfully positioned itself and built those relationships, gaining what it needs, what it wants from both those organisations, and ultimately working for its own best interests. Now, I think the most impressive NATO partnership achievement is the development of its professional peacekeeping force, trained to NATO standards and doctrine. This year marks the 10th anniversary of Armenia's contribution to KFOR in Kosovo, and Armenia has also been a stalwart contributor to the ISAF operations in Afghanistan, with 121 peacekeepers currently there. I should say it's the 21st highest ISAF contributor in terms of manpower, and that actually puts it ahead of NATO allies such as Norway, Portugal, Greece, and only just slightly below France, actually. I don't think the French ambassador is here today because I'd like to remind him of that fact. Armenia has also committed to continue to contribute to ongoing resolute support operations in Afghanistan after 2014. And its aim remains to be able to deploy and sustain abroad a peacekeeping contingent of up to a battalion with appropriate equipment on a rotational basis, fully interoperable with multinational operations. But this move towards professionalisation is not just happening in the peacekeeping brigade, it's also taking root across the wider armed forces, with the ongoing development of a professional, non-commissioned officer cadre happening at the moment. And this is the cadre which forms the backbone of Western armed forces. NATO partners, in particular the US and the UK, have been very closely involved in helping to develop the recruitment, the training, and the retention package for the development of this non-commissioned officer cadre. And Armenia continues to take up every opportunity it can to send its officers on training programs offered by different NATO partners. And in the UK's case, we're delighted to send officers regularly both to the British Military Advisory Training Team courses held in the Czech Republic, and also to Sandhurst, which is our elite officer training program. I'm pleased to say that the Armenian cadets sent on that Sandhurst training course, a year's training course, together with British officers and officers from around the world. The Armenian cadets almost invariably passed with flying colours and often at the top of their class. But Armenia has also grasped the opportunities for partnership in wider defence reform, participating in programmes like the NATO Defence Institution Building Programme. And the aim of these programmes is to strengthen democratic accountability, budget transparency, and effective management in security institutions. Armenia is currently one of only 16 countries amongst both NATO members and partners engaged fully in the Building Integrity Programme, doing self-audits and other activities, which is a programme aimed at developing tools which can help fight corruption and increase transparency. And in fact, our Tbilisi-based defence advisor will be down in Yerevan again next week to run a joint workshop with Ministry of Defence officials and representatives from Transparency International to look at how to take this work forward, and clearly working to bring in civil society and making the civilian-military relationships work as well as they can is another very key NATO principle. So actually, Stepan, next time, can we have a military person as well on this panel? Because I think that would also help to demonstrate one of the core principles, which is this civil-military political partnership. In recognition of the work that's been done to reform and increase the accountability of Armenia's armed forces, the UK, the US, together with our colleagues in the OSCE, the UN and Counterpart International, recently awarded Deputy Defence Minister Tonayan the Government Reformer Prize in our Universal Rights Awards ceremony. And I think this goes to demonstrate how impressed we have been in the international community with how seriously Armenia has taken the opportunities and the programs that we have offered. A final word about the summit, since it's our summit, which we're very pleased to host. I shouldn't say it's our summit, it's NATO's summit, but we're very, very pleased to be able to host it and to promote Wales. There is a symbolic significance because the last NATO summit was held in Britain in 1990, just after the Iron Curtain fell in Europe. And as I said, we've spent the last 24 years orienting NATO towards different threats, new threats: terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, civil emergencies, civil strife, cybersecurity. But clearly, as Despina said, a major theme of this summit, unfortunately, will be to set out a very robust response to what it has become a new threat, and that's the threat which Russia has presented to NATO partners over the past few months. And the threat is twofold. Russia's demonstrated willingness to flout international law by pursuing a high-speed annexation of another NATO partner's territory. But the second is the use of what's been called hybrid or ambiguous warfare. And this is the deniable use of special forces, the supply of arms to irregulars, and the use of extensive and overwhelming propaganda. And in response to these and other threats, the Alliance will be working up a very robust package of measures. But partnerships remains the core of what the Alliance will continue to pursue. And the difficult question that we will need to grasp is how to pursue the relationship with Russia and whether the current NATO-Russia Council format can continue. Since I was part of the team that was involved in negotiating the NATO-Russia Council some over 10 years ago, and I saw some of the initial steps that were taken in good faith on both sides to try to build a better relationship. I now personally find the subsequent failure to transform that NATO-Russia relationship it's a real missed opportunity.